In a seemingly simple but meaningful moment, the world paused to watch two figures who have been symbols of friendship, struggle, and sincerity for more than a decade. Jungkook and Jimin, two BTS members who are now known not only as global musicians but also figures who are shaping a new meaning of human closeness, are back in the spotlight after their embrace scene went viral and took the top spot on various social media platforms around the world. The scene emerged at an unplanned event as a monumental moment, but naturally turned into a point of collective emotion for millions of fans who had been looking forward to being together after a long period of uncertainty and distance. The hug lasted only a few seconds, but time seemed to stop. Jungkook, with a warm smile and slightly closed eyes, hugged Jimin with a sincerity rarely captured in a public setting. Jimin, with pale blonde hair and a calm expression, returned the hug without a word. No background music, no grandiose dialogue. Just two human beings understanding each other's meaning after a long, arduous journey. The camera panned gently, showing the contrast between their black outfits and the purplish blue light that wrapped the stage. In an instant, social media exploded. The hashtags #JungkookJiminHug and #OT7Forever were trending in more than 80 countries, while the video was shared more than 30 million times in just 24 hours. The fans, or better known as the ARMY, wrote thousands of comments in the same vein, a mix of nostalgia, emotion, and pride. "This is not just a hug," wrote a fan on Twitter. "It's a symbol that they are still one heart, even though the world has tried to separate them with distance, time, and responsibility." Many interpreted the scene as an emotional turning point in the relationship of two best friends who were once rumored to be apart during the draft. Now, after a long time, they are back in a single frame that proves that true warmth does not need words. The media reaction was no less great. Several major outlets such as Rolling Stone, Variety, to NME wrote special coverage discussing how the simple moment became a global phenomenon. They highlight BTS' ability, especially Jungkook and Jimin, in transforming personal interactions into universal symbols of friendship and empathy. Social media experts even consider this phenomenon to be clear evidence of how Korean pop culture has broken through geographical and emotional boundaries, creating new forms of communication between artists and their fans. "The hug is not only an expression of affection," writes a columnist from The Guardian, "but also a universal language that everyone understands, regardless of language, culture, or national origin." But behind the roar of the public, many realized that the moment was born from a long journey that was not easy. Jungkook and Jimin have gone through a harsh time of conscription, a time where limited communication, heavy training schedules, and feelings of isolation became part of the routine. Earlier reports suggested that the two had experienced emotional distance, mainly due to public pressure that highlighted their relationship excessively. Much has been speculated about the tension, but neither Jimin nor Jungkook have commented directly. Therefore, when the camera captured the embrace, the world seemed to regain the balance that had been lost. For many fans who have followed their journey since their debut, this moment feels like a homecoming. There was an inexplicable sense of relief, a sort of collective healing after years of seeing them struggle, grow, and sometimes be separated by distance. Some fans even wrote lengthy essays about the meaning of the hug on online forums, comparing it to other iconic moments like their hug at the Love Yourself concert a few years ago. "They used to hug as group mates," wrote one Brazilian fan. "Now they hug as two human beings who have gone through a storm together." That night, behind the stage, the atmosphere also turned warm. A crew member who worked on the show wrote in the online community that after the cameras stopped recording, Jungkook still patted Jimin on the shoulder with a chuckle, as if to make sure that everything was okay. "It wasn't a formal hug or a stage setting," he wrote. "It was purely spontaneous. They were not asked to do so." The testimony further reinforces the impression that what is happening is not part of the scenario, but a naturally occurring emotion. And perhaps, it was precisely because of its authenticity that the moment became so meaningful that in the days that followed, various media began to trace the social impact of this viral hug. In South Korea, some TV stations reviewed the recording of the show with a special segment titled, "The Meaning Behind the Hug." Cultural psychologists were even invited to discuss how BTS, through simple interactions, managed to cultivate a global empathy that other musical groups rarely have. They called Jungkook and Jimin's embrace a collective healing gesture. A moment that not only warmed fans' hearts, but also reminded many of the value of humanity that is often lost amid the cold digital world. Meanwhile, streaming platforms recorded a surge in playback of the two solo songs. Jimin's Letter and Jungkook's Still With You hit the charts again, some of which even made it to Spotify's global most streamed tracks list. The listeners wrote that listening to the songs after seeing their embrace gave a different emotional sensation, as if understanding the meaning of the lyrics that once seemed vague now became deeper. We only really understood the song when we saw them hugging each other, one YouTube user wrote. Not a few fans also felt that the moment became a symbol of BTS's emotional reunification, especially in the midst of a time when most of its members were still completing military duties. Many took the hug as a sign that BTS is still solid and will return with renewed vigor after a long hiatus. For ARMY, a hug is like a promise, writes K-Media magazine. A promise that they will return not just as a musical group, but as a family that has grown stronger. But on the other hand, the fans also admitted that there was a sense of emotion and a little sadness that accompanied the moment. Some people cried when they saw the video. There was something in the way Jungkook closed his eyes and Jimin lowered his head that evoked a sense of longing for the early days of BTS time when they were struggling young people in a small dormitory with big dreams. Now, both have grown up, but the hug seemed to return everything to square one. Two friends who trust each other unconditionally. Amid the overwhelming enthusiasm, Jungkook himself mentioned the moment in a live broadcast a few days after the event. With his relaxed style, he only said briefly, "I hugged Jimin because it felt like I hadn't been on stage with him for a long time. I didn't mean anything. I just wanted to hug her." But for the fans, those words reinforced the honesty of the moment. Jimin, in a separate interview, smiled slightly and said, "I didn't know it would go viral. But I know. Maybe many have been waiting for us to greet each other again like before." The virality of the hug also prompted many brands and media to use pieces of their images for campaigns themed on friendship and courage. Some companies even imitate that gesture in their advertisements, associating it with the value of loyalty and trust. The entertainment world is once again proving that anything that touches the human heart, no matter how small, can be a huge force in shaping global cultural narratives. Now, weeks after that moment occurred, the video of Jungkook and Jimin's embrace is still circulating on timelines, still inviting comments, and still being the subject of discussion among fans old and new. In a world full of noise, such silent moments are precisely a reminder that what touches the human heart the most are not big words or spectacular actions, but simple touches born of sincerity. Jungkook and Jimin not only gave each other hugs, but also gave a symbolic hug to the whole world that had grown up with them. And maybe that's why, even if the hug lasts only a few seconds, its impact will be lasting. In the hearts of fans, in the history of BTS, and in the collective memory of a world that is always looking for meaning among sound and silence. The world will continue to spin, trends will change, but there are things that will never fade away. Warmth, sincerity, and the story of two best friends hugging not because of the camera, but because of real taste.